Bernadette. We're here with the second installment of the STEP Cayman NextGen podcast series. I think the first one was quite warmly received, and I've got no doubt this one will be as well. So Bernadette Carey is head of the private client practice of Carey Olsen in Cayman. And as a starting question, and to clear up any confusion, just to clarify, you're not part of the Carey family?
I'm not. I don't want to you to think any less of me, but it's true. I'm not actually a Carey of the Carey Olsen family. It's a complete coincidence, actually, but I do get asked that all the time. So no, it's not my dad's firm. I didn't marry Mr. Carey. Complete coincidence.
And you're not the only Carey that works for Carey Olsen.
No.
Isn't part of the Carey family as well.
There are some legitimate Careys in there.
Yeah.
I'm not one of them.
Yeah. Starting question, what do you enjoy most about your job, and has that changed from when you first came to Cayman 15 years ago?
Yeah, a while ago now.
Yeah.
What do I most enjoy? I would say it's the client base that we have in the Cayman Islands for private client work, and the stories they come with. I find that part really interesting. One day you can be learning about somebody's art collection, the next day you can be learning about their manufacturing business. The next day you can be learning about all sorts of bizarre family fights they're doing. So I think it's that interesting factual pattern that you have to work with every day from the clients, and even the countries they come from. There's a new country I learn about every day. I'm guessing that's something you see as a trustee as well.
Yeah, we do, and you kind of no 2 days are the same. It's an often used cliche, but it really is true in the private client industry.
Yeah, even the variety of work, I think, as well is what makes the job really interesting. You can be doing something really simple one day, and then the next day you are deep in the textbooks thinking, oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever come across this issue before. So it's that variety and the challenges that come with a private client practice that I think is the thing I enjoy the most. Just that, the bizarre, interesting, fascinating families, and the age range of those families is changing a lot over time too.
Yeah, and do you find, alongside your technical skills, which obviously are needed as a lawyer, but your capability from an emotional perspective is often used with beneficiary disputes that you've just touched on there as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's more and more needed, particularly as we deal with families whose wealth is increasing significantly, and families, we're sort of at that generational turning point as well, right, where a lot of matriarchs and patriarchs are dying off, and then you've got the family left behind that are wanting to fight about, well, whose money is this, and who really should be running the family business. I think that's super interesting to be part of as well. Sometimes I do feel definitely like I need a psychology degree. I don't have one. I think it would have come in handy, many years back if I had have done that as well as a law degree. I think it'd be a step ahead. Yeah.
And in your team, you've got some very polished young lawyers, Sarah Jane and Katie. What do you think continues to attract young, talented professionals to the island and actually makes them stay long term like you have?
Yeah, I think it's still the same thing that attracted me back in all those years ago. It's what I talked about. It's that variety of work and the ability to be part of matters that are really challenging and to learn a lot along the way. We're constantly encountering problems that we hadn't come across before. And I think it is the ability to be really at the cutting edge of developments and trust and estates law in the Caribbean. So I think that definitely attracts people to work down here. And then I think in terms of staying, what's not to like about living in the Cayman Islands? But I think our private client industry itself is really welcoming, don't you think? Like when you move here.
Yeah, it's pretty collegiate.
Yeah, you immediately feel like you're part of a really fantastic industry, and I think the way that we all conduct ourselves and the work getting on matters is really great. Being access to clients, caseload is really, you probably are down in the weeds a lot more than you would be onshore. So I think the whole package is really attractive to people. I think that's why we have people stay.
Yeah, no, it is very compelling. I think, Greg and I certainly enjoy the weather more here than we do in Guernsey, where we're from.
And I'm one of those expats that's come and gone again. So I first came in 2008 and worked here for 4 years. Went back onshore thinking that I might want to go back to being an onshore lawyer. That lasted for a couple of years, and I was back on offshore again because the work is, in my opinion and my experience, is just quite a lot more challenging and interesting, and the issues that we tackle are just really fascinating most days.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in court with you, and some of the challenges in that case alone were incredibly interesting and sort of at the forefront of case law now as well. So it's and that's not something that happens once every 5 years. It seems that it's kind of every year we're constantly in those conversations with some of the best judges around, in my opinion, also best KCs around that come and preside over those cases as well. So yeah, Greg, I'm going to pass over to you for the next question.
Yeah. So I guess, I mean, you work for a fantastic law firm. Carey Olsen's got a great name. You've done really well. You're a partner. You head your team. You've got 2 fantastic lawyers that work for you in your team. You're a member of the STEP Council. You're kind of a leading authority on the island in terms of trust work and structuring. That's all right. I'm going to get to the point in a second. I work for a different firm as well, I believe, and I'm saying nice things about other lawyers. But I mean, you've obviously got a huge CV. You've accomplished a lot in your career. But what if you had to kind of pick a particular point? What was your proudest kind of achievement professionally?
I think actually it goes back to something that you just said, Naro. It's not one achievement, but I think one of the amazing things, and one of the things I feel really proud about, is when we get to work on one of those pieces of litigation that's a really novel piece of law. And so I think being able to be part of litigation, quite often with your firm, Greg, other firms on the island, we are working in court, and we are obtaining judgments that are really creating new pieces of law, really, and interpreting points of law that before now we weren't all sure about. So I think that's probably my proudest moment, has been, we've had a few of them, as you say, in the last couple of years. All of us in the industry have been able to be part of pieces of litigation that have produced really great clarity in new areas of law.
Yeah.
So I think it's that, being at the forefront of developing new law, working on really hard pieces of litigation that produce something of really great help to the industry.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic.
And all of us, although very proud of our personal achievements in our careers, outside of that family life on the island, you've got two young children that go to school here as well. So alongside your professional achievements, which Gregory just listed, I won't repeat them all. What do you think the island provides for people wanting to move here, and alongside the community that Gregory described as well? What do you think the island provides for individuals on that side of things as well?
It's just a really nice pace of life. I love the location. As I said, we moved home to New Zealand at one point, which I was very excited about, but then realised just how isolated New Zealand actually is. So when you're in the Cayman Islands, you've got great access to the States, to the UK. You can travel a lot. It still feels like a really safe island. I really like that for my kids. We live a very simple life here on the island daily, but we have access to amazing experiences and opportunities if we want to go away. So it's that nice balance of the simple life mixed with opportunities if we're looking for them. I think that's what's kept us here so long. It's sometimes hard, being away from family who are at the other end of the earth. But I think we've managed to get the mix right. And
WhatsApp and FaceTime,
Yeah, revolution.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it does help.
Yeah.
I mean, we already mentioned that obviously you're a member of the STEP committee here in the Cayman Islands. How would you say that kind of your role on that committee and your involvement with STEP, how has that benefited your career and in what you do?
Yeah, it's just any number of ways. So thinking first about education, STEP has just such an amazing ability to let all of us members access seminars and lectures and online newsletters about developments in the law. So that's been a really great, it lands in your inbox and you can see what's happening in any number of jurisdictions around the world. We also have the local industry group get-togethers on the island, which I always find super valuable, particularly because you've been getting so many great guest speakers in lately. So that's been really, really helpful. And then I think going from that is networking, just constantly being able to get together with other STEP members at the industry events that we have quite regularly on the island, chatting to them, talking to you guys about what you're working on. Just that networking thing I think is really important as a private client practitioner. And then obviously being part of STEP Council has been fantastic over the years too, because you get to be part of the legislation committees, which are helping to develop new legislation for the islands, which is super important. But also being part of the conference committee, feeling that's probably another proud moment. We've taken that conference and made it into a really spectacular, one of the best conferences.
Sell out every year.
Fun fact about yourself, Bernadette.
Oh my God.
Come on, surprise us.
It's not a fun fact, but an odd fact is when I was studying to be a lawyer, I had a part-time job for 4 years as a petrol station, a gas station attendant.
Okay.
So I've got some serious skills in pumping gas.
I did the same thing.
Did you?
Yeah.
It's a good job.
Obviously, it's the right pathway for any decent lawyer. Yeah. Go work at a petrol station. Yeah. They also made me clean the car wash machine as well. I had to walk in with I looked like an old-fashioned fisherman. And just going in there and clean the car wash. Yeah.
So that's my secret skill. I know how to check a car for the oil and water.
So if all else fails, you can go and work at Rubis.
I can go to Rubis if it comes down to it.
That's so funny. And again, this is a hard question to kind of answer, but it does catch a few people out. But if you're, to look back and you go out for a coffee with your younger self, what kind of advice would you give your younger self? And, now with all the knowledge that you've managed to accrue over the years, how would you kind of tee them up for success in the future?
I think my first piece of advice would be to take your time a bit more. So all of those, you so kindly rattled off some of my roles and things at the moment. I think I was probably very hard on myself as a junior lawyer, thinking, gosh, I've got limited time, I've got to move quick, I've got to get up the ladder, I've got to get these things done.
Yeah.
So my advice to myself back then would be calm down a little bit, take your time, make sure you enjoy life on the side. I took some time out when I was a lawyer in Sydney, working in Sydney. I took about 4 months off work to travel around Europe and South America. And I really am so happy I did that. Taking a mini career break here and there, I think, is really valuable, particularly in our field where you have to be able to talk to people from different countries, different.
Yeah.
I think that's where the petrol station comes in.
Yeah.
Comes in.
A lot of our clients are really well traveled as well, so being able to kind of relate to that and the complexities of growing up in one location, raising a family in another. Yeah.
So taking my time and not putting too much pressure on myself.
And do you think, Bernadette, part of that when you started was that there was a big difference on females in the workplace? Do you think there was a lot of pressure because it was viewed differently at that point in time, or perhaps not in where we are today, thankfully? And I think, as a proud father to a little girl, I'm very happy it's changed. But do you think that's because the pressures have changed on women now?
Possibly. And certainly I thought, talking about being a working mum, I did taking time off to have kids, which I did. I was sort of away from work face for about 4 years. I remember thinking, gosh, this is a hugely detrimental to my career. And it really hasn't been, which is amazing. It's been really, really a really good learning curve for me. The clock isn't always ticking on your career. Various things that you can do throughout your career to make it work. And I think that point about taking your time is equally important. I would say that to myself as a lawyer at my desk every day. Quite often, particularly when we're litigating, we'll say, gosh, I've got this matter, I've got to respond. I've got to get work done urgently, but actually taking your time, digesting what's being told, digesting what's happened, thinking through your response. We always joke about if you're writing a mean letter back, let it sit, and there'll be about 3 drafts before you actually send it. But I think that is just being patient and being considered with the way that you are practicing law is really important. So in a private client space, you never know when that angry letter that you might have sent to a trustee or to a beneficiary could be the spark that ignites up to see.
Yeah.
We want to take care of it.
Yeah. And I think it's also important as a trustee and you guys sit as lawyers that there's always an underlying reason why people are angry.
Yeah.
And as you said, if you react instantly, you might not find the reason you make the issue much worse. And quite often it's something so simple. it's emotions, right? And the emotions generally, once you get to the bottom of them, are quite simple to deal with, but it's uncovering all those layers until you get there.
That's right. And I think particularly as lawyers, we think we're fixing a problem by writing in these long letters. And sometimes you realize that actually it's those letters that the clients are really like, mate, it's making worse. And you have to step back, like, how can we really get a result here? And so that would be my one mantra that I would give to my...
Take some meal time.
Take some time.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's good. I might do that as well. No, joking. If Anthony's watching this,
Come around here.
Yeah, and how do you apart from pumping gas, always planned to be a lawyer? Like, 5-year-old Bernadette was, wanted to be a lawyer. What was the plan?
I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to be an investigative journalist.
okay.
I think I quite liked detective shows and things like that when I was younger and at home watching TV. So I always had it in my mind I wanted to be, learn about writing, investigating. And so I think in some ways I kind of ended up in a way doing that, being a litigator. It takes a lot of investigation to write affidavits and to find what's really going on in this matter.
Yeah.
So that would be what I would have wanted to be.
Okay.
Not quite sure how I ended up studying law, but here I am.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And so you've, in ignoring the little break when you went home for a bit, you've been here for what, 20 years?
It's about 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's been the major changes during that period? And do you anticipate, in 10 years, 15 years time, that fundamentally it's going to change a huge amount in terms of what we do and how we do it?
Well, I think what has changed since I first arrived here is definitely the client base. So back in the day, it was very much old money, generational wealth, mostly out of Europe or Asia. Whereas now, your practice, you must see the same thing. They can come from the numeric first generation law, the annoyingly young kids with millions of dollars to their it was very frustrating. And then I would think, I would say the nature of our practice has changed significantly. My day-to-day job touches on so many different parts of our law firm now. So they might have private clients with property disputes that we have been with our property team. Might have a dispute that really leads to the specialist input of our litigation department. So her family office work we're doing in conjunction with our corporate team. So I think the way that a private client practice operates now is very different. Is much more contained at 2008 and we used to get a lot of instructors just from instructing solicitors out of the UK or the US, whereas now they had much more client face time. We really are in front of clients a lot more in working with an advisory group to help solve their problems. So much more integrated life.
Do you think that maybe is also a result of the fact that the islands themselves have developed so much in the last 10 years? So many more people now live here. The high net worths live on the island. They want their face-to-face contact with their attorneys. They'll come into the office. They'll expect kind of answers. I think that has had a huge impact on the island and the way in which we work as private wealth lawyers as well. We're almost seen as kind of like the first port of call for any legal issue that they might have. And then it's for us to kind of, like you said, farm stuff out to the property team, litigation, whoever it might. Yeah, I was going to say concierge style service. Yeah, that's kind of thing.
No, I would agree with that. That's another big change is we didn't really have many clients on the island at all other than trustees. Whereas now so many of our clients are high net worth people who've moved here or spend a lot of time here. And then we're also working with their advisors who are on the island too. So it's a much more expansive practice involved.
Yeah, and I think the island's done a fantastic job of actually putting itself out there as a destination, and touched on it before with the lifestyle the islands offer, but also the quality of life here as well. You're not moving here and foregoing the normal luxuries you would have anywhere else. Yeah. From a completely 360 approach, you can get everything you need on the island, and that's for I have calls every single week about people who want to move here, set up business here, get their legal advice here, trustees, etc., and I think Cayman's done a fantastic job at that. And it is one of the things that makes it stand out.
And connectivity as well. It's a very well connected island. I mean, we just talked about it earlier about flights. You can be in New York in a few hours, or you can be in Miami, or you could be in London in 13 hours on a direct flight. So yeah, the island's done a good job of kind of connecting itself to the wider world and not isolating itself.
Yeah, it would be lovely that that direct flight was actually direct.
Yeah.
And Ibude, name me.
Well, instead of the next 10 years, I think that will just continue. I think we'll just continue to see people moving here. I think we'll continue to see. I think one big change is just how regularly we now work with tax specialists in the US. Okay, despite being the tax neutral jurisdiction, I think tax is beginning to impact on our practice significantly as we help clients to navigate all the changes in the tax world.
Yeah, I mean, the families that we see, I mean, I'm sure the same with you, they're not just in one jurisdiction. Their kids might, they're maybe originally from Canada, kids have gone to university in the US, they've met someone, fallen in love, got married, now you've got US persons in the mix. So the kind of the multi-jurisdictional kind of base of a family now does create quite a lot of complexity that needs to be dealt with.
We often joke in the office that one of the first questions we have to ask our new clients is, how many husbands do you have? Our jurisdictions that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
That's
Any US, just let you know, let me know. I guess, one of the questions we're going to ask is, what trends do you kind of foresee for the Cayman Islands? But we kind of already answered that, really. But I guess to kind of reframe it, but what kind of structures, and you see any different trends in the structures that you're kind of advising clients on forming and how they used, or?
There are definitely ebbs and flows. So we had a period where we weren't seeing many new Cayman trust structures. That's certainly changed over the past 6 months. I think really seen a big influx of new instructions for new Cayman trusts.
All right.
Again, from so many different parts of the world, which is quite interesting. So I think we'll continue to see that. I think we'll see more use of the corporate structuring funds and that kind of things for the family office side of the practice. And then I think on the litigation side, we're definitely starting to see a lot more post-litigation restructuring. So you might have had a big fight, you might have gone to court, got your result, but the work doesn't end there. And that we're thinking about how can we take this result and make it work for the family into the future, so we don't end up in court again.
And that's what I think sometimes is forgotten, right? After the judgment is really where the work starts, and dividing that up. And it might be that you then have to approach other trustees and fiduciaries to manage the structures that have fallen out of the judgment. And people aren't necessarily happy. There's always one side that's happier than the other, right? And managing that thereafter is also difficult as well. And at Carey Olsen, you've got a fantastic digital assets practice. Chris is one of the best lawyers around in that space. Are you seeing much on the private wealth space interacting with digital assets and structure around that as well?
Yes, definitely. A lot more work on that front. The interesting thing I've noticed, and you might have as well, is the foundation companies, the use of foundation companies when they were introduced back in 2016, I think it was. We all thought they would be used mostly for, family structuring or charitable giving. And then the crypto space sort of came in and dominated the
So
space.
they ran away with it, didn't they? Yeah.
They've actually seen a turn back towards people wanting more interested in using foundation companies for estate planning. And that works when you do have a lot of digital assets in your estate.
Yeah.
On the trustee side, I imagine that's becoming increasingly the demands for custody and all those sort of concerns that you must worry about as a trustee.
Yeah, absolutely. It's becoming easier to custody digital assets now because they're more mainstream, particularly kind of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and those things. Still not massively comfortable, some of it, as a trustee, and thinking about beneficiary disputes in the future. But it's definitely getting easier. And also, foundation companies, when I'm going to the Middle East, from a civil law perspective, they're much easier to explain than trust. They're still a bit. Although trusts have been around for hundreds of years, as we know, when you're going to the Middle East, it's still a bit foreign to certain countries in the Middle East. So foundation companies, the fact we can do it from here with the jurisprudence you've got with the 40, 50 years in the Cayman Islands is fantastic.
Yeah, so I think we'll keep seeing a lot of that. And then I think for the future, sadly for us, there's a lot more regulation coming our way that is the non-contentious part of our practice. We'll be working a lot more trying to figure out reporting, what sort of regulations our clients need to be aware of. That definitely wasn't the case 10 years ago. We had a lot more freedom, but I think that's going to keep coming.
Yeah.
Particularly with all the beneficial ownership regulation we've seen.
It's interesting, isn't it? Beneficial ownership has dominated our lives, or my lives, and it's something we for the last 10 years now, I guess. But we've obviously seen the move in the US to essentially repeal their beneficial ownership legislation, which is interesting because certain members of the US administration, it was the Trump administration originally that put this in place, even though he's forgotten that. They were pushing offshore centres to enact this, and we kind of said, yes, we'll do it, but when you guys do it, and now they've gone backwards. So I'll be interested to see if that impacts us actually, and we don't have to go as far as some people are saying that we previously would have had to. Maybe wishful thinking.
I was literally about to say wishful thinking there. I think the days of regulation, we're well and truly in that kind of world now. I think I agree with you. I think it's only going to be something that becomes more and more relevant to what we do when we're setting up structures, and we have to be mindful of it from the very beginning. I guess, I don't know if we have any other questions. Do we have any other more questions, or maybe there's one left?
I think we've covered most of them.
But I think we've kind of segued into quite a lot of different questions, so it's kind of flowed more naturally than we're normally used to, just firing questions. But yeah, I don't know if you want to say thank you very much, or...
Thank you. We will have a third instalment with a yet to be named individual. Thank
man or woman?
Thank. Well, actually, on that point, it's also the STEP Cayman Islands Council is a very good blend of young, I won't say old, experienced male, female, Caymanian, non-Caymanian as well. And I think that again speaks to how the island operates as well. But everyone's welcome and their input is valued as well.
And I think that's a great place also for trustees and private client practitioners to engage a lot more. Quite often as practitioners, we're sat in our offices thinking technically about how this might work, but hearing on council from trustees lived experience about the way this regulation is impacting business, I think that's super helpful. So that's another great way that STEP is such an enhancement to a private client practitioner's day-to-day work.
It's fantastic. So again, thank you for your time.
Thank you for taking the time to come see us. Thank you.
Great.